Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Appreciate you guys coming back, and if you're new to the channel, appreciate you checking it out. What we got for you today is, first of all, a viewer report. A viewer emailed me his report, and I'm going to give you that and show you the general location of that one. And then after that, we have a BFRO report. From both of these are from California, the state of California. Let's get to it. Okay, this encounter is sent in by a viewer, Bill Little Eagle. So we really do appreciate it, Bill. Thanks for sharing your story. Okay, let's get to it. Well, it started in Seaside, California. A friend and I wanted to go camping to a spot around Big Sur, California. We left early, about 7 a.m. My friend was named Ron. He lived in Carmel Valley. We drove along the coast. We drove over one bridge and then another bridge and parked on the right side of the road. Camping spot was a mile or so into the forest. We crossed the highway to a trail east. We walked up to the trail north. About 50 feet or so, the trail had tall ferns growing. In between the two bridges was a waterfall. We didn't go there because we had to keep on the trail because a friend that told us about the spot said we had to get there early because it gets dark and we wouldn't be able to find our way out. We headed east and north for a while, and there were two blue jays that were leading us on the trail. We came to a creek and followed it until it split. We headed north, I believe, and crossed a little footbridge still on the trail, lots of forest, and then we came into a little clearing and passed an old wooden picket fence and a tiny old house about to fall down. It was really creepy. Well, we kept on going for a while, looking at the area, and the trail got a little easier, finally to the campsite. There was a big lean-to someone had made, so we sat up and looked for a while, looking at the area. So we started walking on the trail and came to a hill on the left and stopped. I looked up the hill west and said to Ron, "What is that about 75 feet up?" It was something black. I said, "It looks like a dark black stump." So I said, "Let's go up there and see." So we started climbing up. It was steep, so we had to pull ourselves up, grabbing small tree trunks along the way. About 30 feet up there was a trail. I looked on my right, and on the ground there were 3 rocks pointing up the trail. So we followed it back west about 40 or so feet and saw a rock sticking out of the bottom of a tree. I said the old timers used to put important things in the hole and put a rock in it and let the tree grow around it. So we turned around and looked to the right, and there was a dark area that went downhill. Then we heard what sounded like heavy footsteps. There were lots of leaves on the ground. Crunch, crunch. And then from around the dark area, we looked at each other, and he came into sight. All black hair, about 8 feet tall, and walked right in front of us. I would say 30 to 40 feet away from us. The funny thing is, he did not even look at us. He just kept on walking to our left until he was out of sight, and the footsteps stopped. We both looked at each other and started running down the hill as fast as we could. It felt like 5 minutes when we got back to camp, but as we were running, there was something moving in the trees and the brush above us. When we got back to camp, the covered lean-to someone had built was completely torn down. So we started heading back to the car. I'll never forget that day. I reported it to the Bigfoot people, and he got in contact with Ron and called him. I wish I had my camera in my hand of that day so I could show you. I will tell you about another encounter I had in Washington State at a later date. Thank you for listening, Bill Little Eagle. No, thank you for sharing, Bill Little Eagle. We really do appreciate it. That must have been something else. And you know, I tell people, you run into it when you don't really expect it. Like if you go out there looking for it, you're not ever going to find it. It's something that just occurs, I guess. And you know, some of the old stories that I've been researching, like back in the 1800s and the Oregon and all that, same thing back then. They used to say, you know, you could go out looking for the old scamp and never find him, but if you sit around minding your own business, he'll pop up, you know, right there in front of you. So, alright, just thought you guys would like that story from the viewer. Thanks again, Bill Little Eagle. We really do appreciate it. And if anybody else out there has any stories they'd like to send in, please feel free to message me, and we'll see what we can do. Okay, this report is BFRO report number 1792, Siskiyou County, California, July 1966. I was working as a counselor at a wilderness summer camp based at Mosquito Lake. Several counselors would sign up each season for excursions on 1 to 3 nights away in the backcountry. This hike was during the second season in early July. We had completed the major stretch of the 4-hour journey when we came over the ridge and could see East Boulder about 3/4 of a mile below. There were 4 counselors and about 25 boys and girls, ranging in age from 9 through 15. We had stopped for a last gulp of water at a clearing just below the rim of the ridge when several of the campers began to squeal excitedly and pointing at the steep slope directly to the northeast and to the right of us. Not more than 50 feet away at the same elevation stood an erect, hairy creature looking right back at us. One of the kids yelped, "It's a bear!" Tim, one of the counselors, muttered, "That's no bear." The details are still vivid in my memory. The creature was leaning against its left arm, which pushed it out from the canyon wall. The right arm swung back and forth as if for balance, and it bobbed its head irregularly. It was about 5 foot 6 inches tall, covered with long reddish-brown fur, and with a large flat face and round yellow eyes. During a discussion later, Sonny, who was studying biology at UC Davis, insisted that she observed the creature to have a hairless chest with large, round, protruding nipples. This led her to conclude that it was possibly female. The creature held its ground for a little over a minute before it spun around and ran away from our group upwards towards the rim to the right of us. As it ran, it sent a landslide of scree down into the valley below. When it reached the ridge, it turned and peered back at us once again, and then disappeared over the edge. Much excitement followed, and the decision to continue down to the lake and set up camp was made. Curiously, there didn't seem to be a trace of fear among the children, although all the counselors, myself included, did admit later to being afraid. The first thing after dark that I noticed was a powerful odor that came from the ponderosa grove. The closest comparison I can come up with is that of the smell of a skunk, but like muskier with a hint of urine. The entire camp began to get a whiff of this odor, and the animated discussion about the sighting during the afternoon became hushed. In the quiet, we could hear landslides from a number of different places midway up the ridge. A dim green light about the size of a small grapefruit, too. The odor intensified, and the snapping of branches not more than 10 yards away sent the whole bunch of us into a cluster around the fire. The odor was intense when a large shadow figure took several long, deliberate strides through a gap in the trees. It had to have been about 7 feet tall. I saw this creature only once, but others in the group saw several dark forms over the next 2 hours. Shortly after midnight, an 11-year-old boy in the group began to complain of great pain in his lower abdomen. This pain increased over the next hour to the point that he was laying on the ground pulling his legs up towards his chest. The counselors agreed that it appeared that the camper was having an appendix attack. We drew sticks, and Larry and Tim headed out into the dark to the main camp to bring a stretcher with a 4-wheel drive truck to the logging road just over the south ridge. Sonny and I remained with the group, some of them sleeping and others tending the campfire. At the point when Tim and Larry's flashlights were no longer visible, the odor departed as well, and the night became still and quiet. The next morning, shortly after dawn, Tim, Larry, and Warren, the camp director, arrived at the camp with an olive green military stretcher. Warren would later question every member of the group. He observed that the key elements of the story were consistent in each telling. He concluded that we had indeed experienced something strange, but insisted that the counselors present agreed to the possibility that what we had seen were bears. Alright, there you guys have it. 2 stories from California. One sent in by a viewer. We really appreciate that. Bill Little Eagle. And the second BFRO report was from California also. And can you imagine that, being in charge of, you know, those children and then having those creatures all around the camp like that? I mean, obviously they were just curious. And there you go again. There's another story of some Bigfoot that could probably have caused a lot of issues and chose not to. Once again, like I always say, it's a personality thing, I think. Or maybe like a seasonal thing, you know, like breeding or mating season. Maybe that has something to do with it also. I don't know, like territorial during that time. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button for me. And if you're new, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, please. And you know what? While you're at it, there's that little bell that you can hit. It's called the notification bell. Hit all. Don't hit personal, hit all. So just so you guys know. Until next time, remember, where there's a WILLSTAR, there is a way. We'll see you guys later.